the star certified. Because they keep it for a while. When you test reveal, and you stick a thing in, oh, look at you.
Ready to go? Okay, we are live now.
Yeah, well, that's what it's right now. Dark.
Good morning, everyone.
Good
Ohayou gozaimasu. Our modern world, huh? This is more important than my own Enju. So today I am serving as chairperson for this service. So I'd like to welcome everyone, and we'll begin with the Nembutsu. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. So the sutra chanting will have Sambujo on page 24-25, and then this will be followed by the Jusei on page 93. Namanda, 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 namanda. 会秘知恵 小悪道通断善修本高僧上満足異様老実法一願修十期天候無限一周解放像公正不独法上大集中説法四式無用修徳願念心上満得意三害用妙文無下知通断未不詳願学営利投資最小損志願略効果大聖の感動国書天人道珍妙慶Next, we'll have our gatha, so please stand for our gatha Nembutsu 1. It's a short gatha, we're going to sing it twice. Okay, this is on page 169. And then remain standing for the three treasures on page 8. Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not realize the truth in this life, when will it be realized? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we absorb ourselves in the principle of the way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we be submerged in the depths of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we live in harmony in the great assembly as disciples of Buddha and be freed from all hindrances, becoming units of true accord in a life of harmony, in a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriad ages of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teachings. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. Okay, please be seated. Okay, so now we'll have our Dharma talk for today. And I wanted to talk about the middle way. So I was reading an article and it started with this quote from the Samyutta Nikara. And so let me read this to you. So please listen. It says, suppose a log is floating on a river. If the log does not become grounded, does not sink, is not taken out by someone, or does not decay, ultimately it will reach the sea. Life is like this log caught in the current of a great river. If a person does not become attached to a life of self-indulgence, or through renunciation does not become attached to a life of self-torture, or does not become proud of his virtues, or does not become attached to his evil acts, or does not become contemptuous of delusion in his search for enlightenment, such a person is following the middle way. So this quote is telling us that our life may be ideally in an enlightened state, floating down a river, not getting stuck on the edges of the banks, not getting caught on a rock or by a branch or something like this, floating all the way till it reaches the sea. So it sounds like a very ideal way, without conflict, living our lives comfortably. So this is kind of described as the life of attachment, non-attachment. And it goes further and gives some examples, and so it says the ideal for a log to float on a river all the way to the ocean without encountering any obstacles. So are we living like this log? And so I was thinking about this, and you know, we always hear that this is not the case, right? Life is suffering, we hear. Life is dukkha, so Sanskrit word for suffering. Reverend Ken Tanaka's book says life is a bumpy road. Right? Everything does not go so easily. And another example is when you go shopping. You go to Safeway and you take the cart, and it's the one cart that has one wheel that's not rolling evenly, right? So there's a flat spot or something, and so you go down and it's a ka-tunk, ka-tunk, ka-tunk. And so life is kind of like this cart, and you know, it's kind of annoying, kind of distracting as you're trying to do your shopping. Everyone is looking at you because your shopping cart's not working right, you know, and you could feel it going there, ka-tunk, ka-tunk. And so life is more like this, and this is what is pointed out by Reverend Tanaka, and everywhere we read our Buddhist writings that life is not so smoothly like a log floating down a river. And so this is what we want to do, so that the Buddhist teachings is to alleviate this type of suffering as much as possible, to have this nice road to make our life not so difficult, not so many. So the article continues. We always tend to be hooked onto or attached to something. So we bring about these difficulties, right? Suffering through our attachments to people or things or conditions. So who can think of examples of this? Can you think of something that happens or something that happened in your own life? I was trying to think of what kind of examples that might be. Thank you. I think it's a little bit, they have a lot of action going on outside. So thank you. Yeah, so it seems like, our own ego might get bigger or smaller, harder or softer, depending on things that happen. So maybe we've felt occasions when our ego becomes more assertive. So maybe something's going on and there's conflict. And so you speak up to take control, okay? The whole situation, all this conflict in the group becomes alleviated because you've said something. So is that ego, or is that just calming the situation down? Is that compassion? There was so much turmoil. Because you said something, everybody says, okay, let's look at this a different way. Let's think about this again. So is that assertion your ego coming forward, or is this compassion to just calm that situation down? Sometimes it's hard to tell. Which one is it? Which one is it? Is it calm or turmoil? Which one is it? Another thing they brought up is, I worry about what others are doing, what others are thinking. So have we ever worried about what people are thinking about us? Saying something negative. I think this was an example brought up in the last class. That was this past Thursday evening. Someone was talking about, others were talking about this one person, once she realized that, her own feelings were hurt, that they were talking in a negative manner. And I was thinking about examples of someone new coming to the Fujinkai. One of the elders teaches them how to roll sushi properly, right? This is the right way that we roll our sushi. And they are given this demonstration, instruction, and then the teacher goes away, and then another couple ladies come on. Don't listen to her. This is how you really have to do it. You got to get those things right in the center, so this is how you do it. She's not that good, really. So. And so they teach her. So maybe different examples. Other voices come, and so we hear negativity coming, towards the first teacher and things like this, or maybe we do worry about what others are saying about us or saying about someone else. And so these are examples of this attachment, for the person giving instruction, may be overly attached to her position as the teacher of sushi rolling, and the others have their own ego-centeredness or their attachment to their perspective, that they are actually better than this other person. So they should be the teachers of these new people coming in. So this is kind of a negative thing. Maybe on the positive side, I thought positive things that people are saying. I've heard people say, don't let anyone outwork you, to try your hardest to get something done. to make this a habit, whether you're at school or at work, you just do your best. You see someone working hard, you got to work just as hard as they do. So try your very best. So again, is this attachment to your image of yourself? You don't want to look bad, so you work super hard? Or is this trying to just to work as well as you possibly can with ego? What do you think? Is it ego? It's hard to tell sometimes, right? It's very difficult to tell. So maybe we can't just work hard and just because that's a good way to be, rather than trying to impress someone else. This is your own input. It's how you want to live your life. So another question was, I feel that I've been always choosing the easier way. So you want to do something the hard way or the easier way, and the easier way is not necessarily because you're lazy. When I was making artwork and working with this artist from Japan, his name is Kishi, and he would tell me often, never do anything you don't need to do. So when the time comes, something needs to be done, you do it and take care of it, but don't be preoccupied about it. Maybe it doesn't need to be done. You think ahead of time to do something, and then later on you find out you didn't need to do that anyway. So focus your attention, focus your energy. In that sense, he says, don't do anything you don't need to do. So kind of brings a calm to your situation. You don't start thinking, oh no, what about this, what about this, what about this? And he kind of settles you to focus on the thing at hand. So in this way, is that doing something in an easier way or a lazy way, or is it smarter because you're not wasting time and energy? So another point in this doing things the middle way says, I lied about doing what I have not done. So I was trying to think of that one. How does that fit into our lives? Have you ever lied about something that you haven't done? And I think automatically you think about the fishing stories on, caught a fish this big and actually it was this big, right? Or someone who pads their resume on their experiences in life and make it sound like they've done maybe a little bit more than they've actually done. And so I graduated at the top of my class at Cal. So wait a minute. We went to school at junior college here in Alameda. He didn't go any further than that. So somebody out there knows, right? So, or how about car accidents, right? Even your insurance company tells you, don't tell them it was your fault, right? You get in an accident, it was your fault, but you're told, instructed, don't let them know. Don't say that it was your fault. Otherwise, your rates are going to go up, and it's not a smart thing to do. It's never a smart thing to do, right? So what kind of lesson is that? Kind of conflicts with everything we've been taught as we grow up, right? But that's what we are told. So in that case, do you tell the truth or do you lie?
Don't say anything.
Don't say anything? Yeah? Well, it's not so easy. Yeah, so another one, every day I get mad or I get dissatisfied. So I think we all go through that. So what is the latest example of this, right? Every day I have a list of things to take care of, and I get most of them done. Maybe one or two I get left over, get pushed to the next day. But I don't get mad about it. Maybe disappointed, dissatisfied, but I don't think I get mad about right? So the last point that they made on this article is I lose control of myself because of joy or anger. So this one really didn't fit. I can't really think of the last time that I lost control of myself because of joy. Sounds good, but I was really happy when the Warriors won the championship. But I good, but not, lost control of myself, right? And maybe daily driving around, I get angry at another driver. And it's pretty, we take turns as we drive along and calling people names and things like that. But we don't lose control of ourselves as we're driving and we see something happen, okay? So each of these examples of they're asking us questions in this article is how we can possibly live, not being so attached to things that happen in our lives, and things might go a little bit smoother, right? One of the things that was pointed out from the class, second class, Celeste was talking about how she first got connected to coming to the Buddhist temple. She read this article, and in the article it says, things don't happen to you, they just happen, right? But often we take it that it happened to me personally, and so we take it like this, right? And we respond in that manner, so we're attached to that kind of situation. And so the middle way is teaching us to have a mind that is more free of these attachments, these delusions, and where we get stuck on these branches or rocks or something along the way. The river could be a smooth ride to the ocean, but we find all these difficulties, and through these attachments, this middle path becomes a very, very difficult way to move through life. So each of these are kind of examples. So I like the way in the article that it was pointing out that the middle way is a practice, not that we finally are able to do it, but we try, we get stuck, and then remind ourselves and move on from it. You don't want to just get stuck on something and just stay there in that irritated state of mind kind of sense, right? Or attachments that come and become a difficulty, a problem. Then you get obsessed about it and you get stuck in your own life. If you can let things go, not be overly attached, be aware of this middle path, then we're able to move on and not get stuck, not allow others to get stuck. Bring some sense to them, whether they are our spouse or our family members or things like this, and we remind ourselves to not be so possessive, right? Clinging nature. And so through this, our lives can be a little bit more smoother, and we don't grab the shopping cart with the wrong, the wheel that doesn't work. Okay? So it's called a practice, and we practice, and we live our lives and make things go a little bit smoother, as smoothly as possible. So physically or mentally, we're not stuck here and there as we go. Okay? So I think each of these are helpful. One of the things that was brought up in the class is, what's the difference between Buddhahood or being enlightened? And I think in following the middle path, it's not being stuck here and there. So we have this kind of equanimity, calm, and stability in our lives. And in this sense, when we ask the question, am I enlightened? Am I enlightened yet? That's kind of an attachment. That's our own attachment. It's a nice attachment, but it's an attachment that we want this as a goal. So we're stuck on this branch. We want this label for ourselves as Buddhists. And now I've made it. Now I'm enlightened. I've made it to Buddhahood. So thinking of it in this sense, anytime there's an I, the letter I, in your question of yourself, you're still stuck on a branch, right? So if you're still seeking enlightenment, am I there? No, you're stuck on a branch. You're just stuck on a branch. You're not on this middle path yet. So if you can let go of that, not be so concerned about your state, your position. Am I? No, then you're still floating down this middle path, and the question does not even arise. Okay? If you still have this question that you're wrestling with, you're not there. So I think this is another example of the middle path in the class that we just had and in this article. So this is some of the points that I wanted to share today. And yeah, I thought it would be nice, kind of had my mind on the beginning of Ask Reverend Dennis, and so through this, I was asking questions. We got one response from us, but it was a good example. Join me in Gasho, and we'll conclude this portion of the service. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Okay. So now we're going to have our second gatha, Ondok-san, on page 220. So please stand for this gatha. Please be seated. I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone who helped set up the altar. We have nice flowers and fruits up here, and rice offerings and all this, and we appreciate all these things being taken care of and provided for the altar. I'd like to thank Aunt Lenny for accompanying our gathas, and everyone who was helping to check each other in with the temperature check and writing this down. And this is always a good record that we need to maintain for a while still. So, and thank you all for coming to the service. Thank you for the video people and everyone who's at home watching. So thank you for all your participation. Today we're going to have our first session of Ask Reverend Dennis. And so for those of you who are not familiar with this, we did this before the pandemic, and people ask questions that I am able to respond to. So the people who are here are able to ask right on site. And if you're at home, you need to send in your questions via the email to me, and I could come upon them on the next occasion. So at this point, the Ask Reverend Dennis is on the fourth Sunday of each month, and we're going to keep this schedule. So Now we will begin. How many people have a question for Ask Reverend Dennis? Whoa, look at all the hands going. Holy cow. Okay, hold back. Okay, hold back. We'll have, okay, we do have a question. Yes.
When we had the two visiting overseas ministers here, from Japan, and they said that in Japan they didn't have like Dharma schools, and in fact, and both of them said that young people that they never went to temple other than for funerals and memorial services and things like that. And I was wondering, if that's like how do kids learn about Buddhism?
Okay, Ron. Good question. Ron, probably this mic can hear better. So, Ron was asking about a couple of weeks ago when we had the two ministers in training from the IMOP program, and they were describing the situation in Japan where young people, most people, they don't have a regular Sunday service, and they usually have a family temple that they're connected with, and they have a home obutsudan, home altar, and so rarely do they go to the temple except for funerals and memorials, weddings. And so how do they learn about Buddhism? Is that the question? Yeah, so I think it is a difficult thing. People, I don't know. As I did not grow up in Japan, I'm not certain how much exposure they have on a regular basis to the Dharma. We make an effort here to provide Dharma school for the young ones and invite families. And one of the strong points of our school of Buddhism is that it's family oriented, and we include people, and we have groups of all different ages. Dharma school today is having a Halloween party outside, and it looks pretty scary outside with things decorating and pumpkins growing in the garden and things like this. So very much family oriented, and we welcome people to come and to be familiar and comfortable with the temple. And then we learn about the Dharma, we hear a Dharma talk, and we have classroom situations, all these things that are available here in the United States. How we have set up the temple in Japan, because they have a different situation. Primary people that I've been associated with are the ministers, right? They come from Japan to serve here, so they usually come from temple families or such, and something impactful has happened to their life, in their life, that they come to want to study Buddhism, all the more clearly. I could think of an example of my mother. Her father, when she was younger, her father was a business person who went back and forth from Japan to China. And he was killed while he was in China. And so at his funeral, she heard for the first time the reading of the White Ashes, the Kobunsho, and listening to the Kobunsho, it touched her. So this is what Buddhism is talking about. So from that point, earnestly, she wanted to learn more about Buddhism, to the point that she got her own ordination, Tokudo Kyoshi ordination, and that was the impetus, that something caused her to want to learn more about Buddhism. And other than that, there are a number of people who have come to live in our communities from Japan, and they don't seem that familiar with the Buddhist teachings. They really don't. So I'm not sure what to say to respond. I don't know. I think it's a good thing to learn about what exactly is their experience? If they don't go to the temple to learn, how are you learning about Buddhism? We should ask more often. Joan, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I can't help but think that maybe, well, I've lived in a couple of countries, but for short periods of time. And France, they always seem to be Christian Catholic, you might say. And then Italy, people there. And in Italy, the same way. And then part of Paris, I found the people that seemed to be interested in going to church weren't French. They had come over from Africa. And I wonder if too much of the spiritual side just gets absorbed into the general culture, and then it almost becomes just part of your, your nationality, but you don't really integrate it into your day-to-day. And that unless you seek it out and you really are mindful and really care, it just kind of becomes another thing like, breaking bread with your dinner and putting it in your soup. And I just wonder if maybe that's happening just universally, everywhere, It's just...
Okay, so Joan's making the point that when she was in France, people who were from other countries would go to churches, but the people from that country would not necessarily go to their churches there. So maybe it becomes part of the culture, is the point that Joan is making, where they have a sense of their religion through their life experience and not necessarily just through going to temple services and such. So that's another perspective. Okay, Mas Takano.
Yeah, just follow up with Ron asking your response to what she was saying. I've often wondered what headquarters in Kyoto, what is their mission? It appears to me that they're looking at international offices to spread Buddhism, but doing nothing, I should say nothing, but doing very little to promote Buddhism in Japan. And that's where our culture comes from, pretty much a lot. So I often, I went to see my first cousin in Fukuoka, and their kids, they're all Shinto or Buddhist and Shinto and Christian. They got a couple of them. He's taking me to all the shrines in the temple in Fukuoka, and he claps his hands, they do Shinto, and they think they're Buddhist. But I often wondered, the basic question is, what is headquarters doing? Are they just not paying attention to trying to spread Buddhism more in Japan, or just depending on the international churches?
Okay, well, to share Mas's point, he's saying how Honganji, our mother temple in Japan, they seem to make an effort to provide Jodo Shinshu teachings here in America and expanding to Europe and South America. We have temples there in Brazil and such, in Mexico and all over the world, but maybe is there less input to try to grow Buddhism, Jodo Shinshu Buddhism in Japan, if they don't have such a Dharma schools and all this stuff like we do. And so I think there are a number of people, they're very strong in Japan where people are a part of the tradition and they are familiar with the teachings and such, and many families are like that. At the same time, there is that push everywhere where people are not necessarily as church-going, temple-going as their parents and grandparents had been in the past. And so a lot of other things in the modern world that pull you away. And so the younger ones maybe not so connected to the temple teachings itself, and it becomes kind of a mesh, like Mas was was talking about relatives who, have Shinto practice along with Christian and Jodo Shinshu, and it's kind of like a mix of things they do, and they might not be so familiar with what is specifically Jodo Shinshu in their life and in their teachings. So, but I don't know that we can, it is a concern over there to provide the Dharma to everyone out there, but it's not like we're doing a whole lot better here, right? We have these avenues, but it's just not easy in this day. I think all different religions are having the same decline in membership and things like this, and so difficult to point to anything, or is it their fault, or whose fault is it? Many factors are involved, and it's kind of complicated. So we can wonder about it and look at it, and I think it's a good thing. So I don't think we can come to conclusions.
A lot of underbrushing that river up there in Japan, I guess, as long as I get through.
Okay, we're up against the time, so this was kind of fun. I had other questions here, but I'll save them for next time. We had a good number of points brought up today in this session from the group that is here. And again, to remind everyone, if you do have questions, you can send it by email. Just pull me aside when you have a moment. If we are going to get to the next session, it's nice if you can be here. I hate to get asked a question and then the person doesn't show up for another 2 months or something like this. And I don't want to give the response and everyone hears it except the person that asked the question in the first place. So that part of it we're still working on to get this to work properly. Okay, so we're going to conclude our service for today. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, Namanda. So let me light the incense again. Please come up in Oshoko and do prepare as you have done in the past at your homes. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. Announcement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perhaps
Okay,
somebody
come
needs-
to the, do you want to come up here?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, some of you have seen in Lupaya about the parking next door. We don't use it too much during the weekend, which is okay, and the people over there use